Well, guys, welcome to the second part of the Pinewood Derby wide body car, however you want to word it, build that I am currently doing. This is what we have right now. Last one, we cut it out, gutted it out. You can see we got her pretty hollow on the inside. Now, the fun, painstaking part of sanding. So, as you can see, like for instance, right there at the tip of my finger is kind of a gap in the wood, and there's another one here on the where the roof goes down to the body. Um, there's a few spots, I think, right up here on the very front where the body meets. I'll have to fill those in with body putty, but for the most part, we'll have to use a combination of two different types of sanding. First one's going to be power tools. The second one's going to be by hand. So what I have done, I have three different designs up here. You got this more your traditional style Pinewood Derby car. All the weight's on the back. I'll get to that here in a second. This is what I like to build. Most of my cars that I have built, I've never added the top on. So this is still kind of a new experimental thing for me. I have done one. It was still pretty fast, but this is, like it says there, a test subject. This is something I just threw together to run down the track to make sure the cars wasn't going to jump off the track. So when it comes to aerodynamics, most people would probably go with this one. And the reason being is because it's got the wedge shape to it and all that. That is ideally the situation. But it's way light. So they add weight to it. All the weight's on the back. And I mean, there is like no balance to it till you get, oh, even with my finger right at the back wheels, it's still lifting the front end up. So aerodynamics are important, but good weight placement is also important. Having it towards the front as the car comes down the track. Those that aren't familiar with Pinewood Derby, the track goes down and flattens out for so long. So with the weight on the front of the car, it's going to pull the car down. As soon as it gets to the flat part of the track, they don't have nothing to push it because all the weight is on the front. But in this car, all the weight's on the back. So yes, it's going to push it, and then when it gets to the bottom of the ramp, it's going to push it, give the car an extra boost, but it's going to want to lift the front end up, as you guys can see. This car the way we've got it set up, and it's been abused. Not very fast, actually. So that moves me over to this one. This is just a block. I honestly don't even know what it weighs. Since I don't know what this weighs, we're just going to set it on the scale real quick and see where we're at. 4.55. Okay. But this is just a test car, and it does surprisingly well, but it's not aerodynamic. So having good balanced weight is important, and that's the only reason I say this one does good is because it is a little more weighted towards the back instead of the front. So it does have that little extra boost coming off the bottom of the ramp, but it's also well balanced to help it get down the track evenly. So that brings us to this one. Aerodynamics isn't really going to help be a big thing on this one as far as the top. I think I'm going to have to cover the bottom up with this one because it's going to catch a lot of drag on it. But what we ought to do is just kind of set up a balance beam, I guess you could call it. Set up balance beam. So This car is almost dead center. That's about balanced there. It's still leaning a little towards the front. That's going to be pretty well balanced there. That means most of your weight is more towards the back here instead of the front, which is what we want. So when it comes down to it, and we start rounding this car off, that's going to make a big difference in aerodynamics. Another reason why I do them that way is somewhere on YouTube is a video where they actually took Pinewood cars and put them in a wind tunnel. And without putting the axles in, the wind tunnel showed that cars with fenders tend to be more aerodynamic than cars, say like this one or that one, because it allowed the air to flow smoothly past the wheels and created less turbulence. So with that said, I am going to start the painful sanding process on this car. I really haven't came up with a name yet, but to me it kind of almost looks like an Astro Martin or something from back in the day, but maybe we can just call that car Martin. I don't know. Drop a name suggestion in the comments below, but we're going to start the sanding process on it and hopefully get somewhere with it. Well, I went through and added a little more shape to the car after all night of thinking and Christmas activities. And as you can see, I have a pretty good control over where the wood meets. It's not as obvious as it was. I used some of this plastic wood filler. Just kind of rub it in along the lines. There were a few gaps in the, up here that I filled in with it, and just made it not as noticeable. But the car's ready for a final wipe down, and we'll see where we weigh real quick, just to be sure before we get everything all said and done. All right, let's put the car on here. Put that on there. Put that on there. It's all 4 axles. That on there and that on there. 470. Let's see if we got room for the light. Woo! Hopefully that 1/10 is just paint. I don't know what color we're going to paint it yet. I don't have a lot of paint here right now, but we got a combination. I think we got red, black, blue. I think there's even some yellow over there. Yep, there's some yellow. So what I like to do before I paint is take some masking tape and put over where the axle slots are. And the reason being, when you leave the bare wood exposed, you'd probably think it'd create more friction, which kind of, but here's the kicker. While you're possibly creating more friction, what you're doing is allowing the graphite to soak in or build up on the wood. Whereas if it was painted, the paint itself, it ends up being like a double-edged sword. The more you run, the paint's going to get hot and it's going to get sticky. It's going to cause more friction in the long run. And the graphite's not going to stick to it. So with using, covering up that little piece of wood and allowing it to stay bare when you paint, it's going to allow, like I said, it's going to allow the graphite to kind of absorb into the wood more or less. And as time goes, the car technically should get faster.